Hello, hello. Okay, so we're testing something new today. We tried to actually do a little intro, and we may have lost Facebook, but that's okay. We are live in any way. Good morning, everyone. We are so happy to be here. Thursday, February 3rd. We are very excited. We're always learning, and actually backstage we were talking a little bit about how hard it is to kind of figure out all these different pieces of technology to kind of interact, go live on different platforms, but that's a different show maybe.
Yes, yes.
But in any case, let me just say thanks for joining us on Coffee Time this morning. For those of you returning to watch us today, thank you so much for your support, and we really appreciate you. And we hope that you're learning from us every single time that you join. For those of you coming in and joining us for the first time, we welcome you with open arms. Please put a thumbs up or hands up in the chat so we know you are new and we can welcome you as well. I really want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel or the page that you are watching us from. We go live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. As I mentioned today, I think due to timing, something happened to Facebook, so we may have not gone live on Facebook today, but we will have the podcast listed afterwards. Just a quick intro. My name is Marie Torossian. I'm a CPA and a certified management accountant, an experienced auditor, and a CFO. I've created a proprietary methodology called Valuation MT, which, by the way, I'm doing a 12-week
Yeah.
class on Clubhouse. I was invited by the people from Landing Big Whales to do this 12-week session. So I did one yesterday. It was super exciting, a little nerve-wracking to commit to a 12-week of
Yeah.
an hour a week of explaining about what I'm doing. But this is great because it gives me a chance to show everyone what we can do and to help them grow from 1 million to 10 million to 20 million and more. I'm also an author, and I've written a couple of books, one of them being The Complete Guide to Business Growth, and that's available on Kindle for purchase. We also have a free ebook that's called A Business Owner's Guide to Operational Accounting. I'm going to put both links in the comments, and you'll probably see it going across the video as well. And one more update that I wanted to share with you because I'm so excited. Last year, I did so many different Zoom classes with friends and different leadership groups that I'm part of, that I decided to do a boot camp this year for entrepreneurs that are just starting out or they're thinking of starting out. I also did a class last year to executives that were in transition and they were thinking of starting their business. So this is a full day boot camp on March 11, 2022. It's going to be from around 8 a.m. in the morning. So it's a commitment all the way through 5:30, 6:30. It's going to be delivered as a in-person and online. And it's going to go through a success mindset, financial health, accounting and tax, business development, and marketing. So it's jam-packed with information that's going to be so important for you guys, those who are entrepreneurs and those who are thinking of becoming entrepreneurs,
Exactly.
what it takes to survive.
Exactly. The real stuff, and not textbook.
Absolutely. And Bank Franklin says that investment is not in knowledge pays the biggest interest. So
Right.
I really recommend you guys join us on that boot camp, March 11, 2022, and I'm going to put the link as well. And of course, as always, I am joined by my featured guest, my friend and tax colleague, Pedro Gonzalez. Pedro, welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, and excited again to be here another week. Tax season is on fire, and we're looking forward to see how the IRS is going to handle the volume when they're behind. So I know that's a conversation for another day, but doing very well. Thank you, and looking forward to share some good information today. Pedro Gonzalez, CPA, your business and tax strategist. We, in conjunction, with the work Marie is doing, we help our clients with their cash flow. Cash flow is lifeblood of any business, regardless of size and industry. So we work on helping our clients improve their cash flow, lower their taxes. Taxes erodes wealth. Again, it doesn't matter if you're a multi-billion-dollar company or just a startup. You gotta be watching for the impact of taxation in your business and in your personal life, and and also finally exit strategies. I mean, we those are the 3 points that we heavily work with our clients, because again, all of us are going to exit. It just depends on how we're going to exit. So it is up to you to make those decisions, but we're here to guide you, to give you the tools that you're going to need to meet those goals. We have an ebook that we issued that again is getting some good feedback. The Real Estate Investors Tax Strategy Guide. It is free. You can access it, but it's not a freebie that it's just a few pages. It's a good information that you're going to find valuable. And we added, for those that download the book, is a 7-day e-course that has some tips
Nice.
for 7 days, and it comes when you download the book. It will come also 7 days of, again, packed information about taxation, and specifically for the real estate investors.
That's awesome, Pedro. That's great. I love the e-course idea. Awesome. I think that's gonna be great for those who are want to learn more about real estate.
Correct.
That's awesome. Awesome. So just a heads up and a little summary of what we've talked about, because we launched this show back in October, and just those of you who haven't been around, it's first time joining us. Pedro and I decided to do this show because we would always have these awesome conversations, just on our own, on the phone, thinking, looking at all these situations and challenges that we are fixing for our clients. And one of these days we decided that, we should really talk about this. We are talking great information here. We can share this information. And that's kind of what we started. And we launched on October 7th. And with that, so since October 7th, we've talked about a variety of things in accounting and tax, including self-employment related issues, taxes, due dates. We've talked about tax planning, and that was actually a few-week series. We've talked about year-end closing steps, record keeping, reasonable compensation of shareholders of an S corporation. We've talked about real estate investment. It was a lot from Pedro's book. So, make sure you go back and check out some of those episodes from prior weeks. And then today, our focus is going to be on 1099 reporting. And before you guys decide, well, 1099s are already done. They were due January 1. That's true. And we did say that. That was last week's show as well. But we wanted to actually focus on the third-party payment processors and what are their obligations. So, so with that, I want to open up the floor with Pedro, kind of taking over, some of the thoughts that you have on this specific issue.
Yeah, so this conversation, actually, what happened was I was having a conversation with somebody, and yes, it happened February 1st, the day after the deadline. And it got me thinking, and the individual has some misinformation about the requirements. And so we were exchanging the communication. The person called me in essence in a panic, and then he has some misinformation that unfortunately it can be resolved, because it's still within within the first 30 days to make some corrections at a minimal amount of penalties and impact on him. But it got me thinking, what else or who else out there might have misinformation about the 1099s.
Sure.
So what I figure is, let's start with the basics. I mean, the general rules, and then we're going to move into, when is it due? What are the penalties? So you can gain on understanding the magnitude of the penalties. The 1099s is not no joke. I mean, you're gonna see the level of the penalties. And then I wanted to discuss the hot topic right now is payments that are being made with third-party processing, because again, we're moving into an era that we're not writing checks or paying in cash. We're paying most of our vendors is either through ACH, electronic forms, ACH. We're paying through credit cards, Venmos, and you name it. PayPal. Absolutely. We're using different ways. Stripe. We're using different methods now to pay our contractors and vendors. So with that said, let's start with the general rule. The general rule is that all businesses that pay an individual or an unincorporated entity performing services in the United States that is $600 or more during the calendar year are going to be required to file. The form is the 1099 NEC. Used to
Yes.
be the miscellaneous, but
Miss.
now they have a specific form for
Correct.
non-employee compensation, NEC, with the Internal Revenue Service each year that those requirements are met. And you also have to provide each of your payees a copy. So you got to hand a copy to each of the employee that be emailed or handed physically, but you also have to file those forms with the IRS. Now, unincorporated is going to be individuals or proprietorships. Are going to be your partnerships, your LLCs are considered
Yes.
unincorporated entities. So all of those type of forms of entities, you have to issue them 1099s if you pay them for services that are $600 or more.
Correct.
Now, when is it due? It is due at the end of January. In this case, it was just this Monday. January
Yes.
31st was the deadline to have met the filing and to deliver your 1099s to your payees. And this again applies to both if it's paper or electronic. It
Electronic.
doesn't
Correct.
matter how you processing is January 31st. Now let's get into the interesting part. Now, penalties. Now the penalties basically the
Interesting part. Penalties.
uh, the penalties basically is gonna boil down to two aspects in here. One is filed correctly, and what the IRS you're gonna hear a term in essence called intentional disregard. Now,
Mm.
if it's filed correctly, uh, and let's say you were late, then is $50 per information return. Just you're gonna start doing some math. It's $50 per form
Hmm.
within the first 30 days. So you still have time. Let's say you realize right now, oops, you know what I mean? I'm listening to this
Right.
podcast and I realize I should have sent my 1099s. You still
Right.
have within that window of opportunity to file it and be have a minimal amount of penalty. It's $50 per form within the first 30 days to a maximum of $565,000 per year, $197,500 for a small business. And we're going to
Whoa.
define what the IRS defines for this specific purposes. What is a small business? $110 per form if it's filed more than 30 days, but before August or by August 1st,
Hmm.
to a maximum of $1,696,000 or $565,000 for a small business. If you file after August 1st, then it's going to be $280 per form to a maximum of $3,292,000 per year, $1,130,500 for a small business per year.
That's the penalty.
Those are the penalties. And you can see
Whoa.
this is no joke. Now, you
Whoa.
might say if you have a business with one, you know what I mean, with one 1099, you're not looking at $1 million penalty.
Correct.
You still have
Correct.
penalties.
Yeah.
So you have to look at that. Now, what happens if you file on time and now you realize there's a mistake? Because again, you could be one, you missed the deadline. The other situation is you file on time and now you're reviewing your file and oops, you know what I mean, the social is incorrect, or the name of the payee is incorrect, or the payee calls you back and says, "Hey Marie, this is not my social, or this is not my, or this amount is incorrect. You didn't pay me this amount."
Yeah.
Now, in that case, you still are within the what they consider the realm of correcting it and be still considered filing a correct information. You know what I mean? So as long as you're correcting, that's why that time you see these 1099 corrected
Corrected.
or
Yes.
it's because they realize, and it happens. Even big corporations at times
Sure.
make mistakes. So the what I do advise is if there's an incorrect information, to correct it.
Sure.
because you're still showing in essence you're following a due diligence. You're doing what is the right, the right thing to do. I mean, I was
Right.
informed that it's incorrect. Let me go ahead and correct it.
Right. It's always showing the good intention, right?
Good
Like
faith.
that's always,
Exactly.
yeah, the good faith, the good intention. And I think that always is a
Correct.
good thing with the IRS.
It
You're
works on
always
your
trying to do
favor.
your best.
Correct.
Yeah.
It works on your favor, and so
Yeah.
that's why is best that you go ahead and correct that. And then it gets into, then if you don't file at all, or you file incorrect information, then is when it gets into the they call intentional disregard. And so if you do not
Hmm.
file corrections, I mean, so you let it be, it's incorrect,
You
you
leave it be.
file it, let it be
Yeah.
that way. You don't meet any kind of exceptions that kind of, in essence, work a reasonable cause of why you file late, or why the information is incorrect, and there's no reasonable cause, then it's a
Right.
$570 per information return with no limits.
Oh, wow. Whoa,
So,
that is big. Yeah.
and that
Because
can
now
then
you're
add
showing
up.
a bad faith because you're not even trying hard to,
Correct.
to fix things.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
Right.
again, even for a small business, if,
Yeah.
God forbid, you get into this intentional disregard, $500 in essence, or $600 just to round it per form. Let's say you have 10 of those, that can add up to 6,000. You name it. I mean, you can go, and
Yes.
on top
Yes.
of that, depending on how they found it, typically this type of situation a lot of times happens during audits. You
Yeah.
get audited by the IRS or the Labor Department. Somebody gets a tip that you pay me as a contractor and I thought was an employee. Now they're going to audit you, and so
Right.
either the Labor Department is going to look into the case, or the IRS is start auditing you, and then this surfaces. Now, remember, the IRS right now is not auditing 2020; they're
Right.
auditing 2018. So
Right.
if something happened 2018 and you fail to file, and they say, no, where's the 1099 for this? Let's say you have a business with a lot of contractors, and now they're going to go and look at your numbers, and they're going to say, okay, so where's your 1099s? And you don't have them.
Right. And
That's when then you're
big
going to have
trouble.
a problem, because then
Yes.
why you haven't filed? Then you
Yes.
better have a reasonable cause for not filing, because if not, then they're going to look at it as intentional disregard. You disregarded the responsibility of filing a 1099.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, this is very, very important. And I think we've covered it a few times with these due dates. Super important to stay
Mhm.
diligent. And this is some of the items we'll be going over with in during that boot camp as well, because I think it's really important that entrepreneurs and those who are wanting to start a business, that they know this information ahead of time,
Correct.
versus when they get into it and they're just like completely lost and they're like, well, I didn't know. The IRS doesn't care if you say I don't know, or I didn't know.
Correct.
It's your job to know. You have to know. You have to do the due diligence to learn and gain that knowledge of what is necessary and what is required.
Yeah, just to dovetail on that, Marie, I think that when people are venturing to entrepreneurship,
Yes.
you're not expected to be an attorney, a CPA, and a financial advisor. You know what I mean? However,
Sure.
you're expected to surround yourself with the
With
people
the
that do know,
yes,
so then you don't make those mistakes. You know what I mean? So it is
absolutely.
really your responsibility. You know what I mean? To you prepare the wrong contract, and you say, well, I'm not an attorney. Okay, yeah, no, I know that, but you as a business owner should have contracted then an attorney to write it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'm not a CPA, so I didn't know the deadline. Well, okay, I understand, but then you should have hired a CPA to
Right.
keep you on track, so that you
Yes.
don't miss those deadlines.
Yes. Absolutely.
So I wanted to, kind of reemphasize that, because that's something that you see a lot happening with small business. Like in the case of this individual calling me on the first,
Yes.
he missed the deadline, had misinformation, and and unfortunately, he will have to pay a small amount. But if he took my advice, he can minimize the penalties, and maybe he'll become a client at a later time. Um, Now,
Absolutely.
what advice can I give you to avoid all of these penalties? And maybe we have mentioned it here in the podcast, is the use of Form W-9. Uh,
Hmm.
What
Yes.
I recommend our clients is to have, in essence, an onboarding process. You should
Yes.
have, in essence, two packages. One is for employees, one
Yes.
for your contractors. You should have a very defined onboarding process. I'm sure Marie will guide you through that. We also help our clients with that process, is to have that. That should be a minimum of documentation that you must have if you're going to hire an independent contractor. You should have your W-9s. You should
Yep.
have, if your business requires licensing, where's the licenses? If you're
Yes.
supposed to have bonding, insurance for your contractor, where are those documents? So again, you have a checklist that regardless of who you're handing this responsibility, you should have that checklist. Say, okay, Pedro's going to be one of our independent contractors. Okay, Pedro, you have to sign here,
Right.
initial here, initial there. I need copies of this, copies of that. So you cover yourself. The best time is when you're initiating the relationship, not after. See, what happens a lot of times is that you hire somebody as an independent contractor. You hire them today, February 3rd, and then the individual leaves March 2nd. Now comes the
Right.
next year. Now you're sitting in
Yes.
January 2023, and you forgot that you paid Pedro, I don't know, $20,000 in that period of time for some kind of consultation services, and now he's nowhere to be found.
Exactly. And then you
Now you
have
have
to
a
issue,
problem.
and you cannot find him and get that information and the social or whatever it is to be able to issue. Absolutely.
Correct.
Agree.
And the responsibility falls on the
On you, on the business
employer,
owner.
the pay,
Yeah.
exactly. So that you see that it's not
Yeah.
going to be, well, Pedro left. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that you didn't get the information needed. So then you should have collected that information. That's why it encourages you have that that process, like the onboarding of your independent contractors, the same with your employees. You have them sign the W-4s, have them sign the necessary documentation. So then you have the proper withholding. They are signing off. This is my legal name. This is my social. This is my address. This is the withholdings I want you to take from me. So
Absolutely.
then nobody can come back later and say, well, I'm actually single. I'm married. You did the incorrect withholding. This is not my name. This is not my social. So,
Right.
and so
Yeah.
this is how you prevent it. Now, with independent contractors, how are you going to know if the individual that you're meeting with, because what happens is that we're meeting with individuals.
True.
So what happens if that person is acting as a corporation, unless you ask the question, unless they put it in writing? Because
Yes.
I can come to you as Pedro Gonzalez instead of as my corporate name.
Right. Right.
So the way to do it is get Pedro to sign that W-9. In
W-9.
which form are we acting? That's why also the independent contractor agreement. That's why I harp on that, because it will help you. Who are you contracting? Are you contracting Pedro as an individual, or Pedro as a corporation, or Pedro as a representative of a corporation? So that is how you're going to define, is Pedro now, okay, Pedro is a corporation. Well, based on the of the information that you share with you, I'm not required to give him a 1099 because he's a corporation. Now
Right.
Pedro acting as an LLC, well, I'm
Right.
required because, again, what I told you, he's now acting as an unincorporated entity. So then you
Right.
need to issue him now a 1099.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that, if you follow that advice, it will minimize the potential penalties. Now, if I gave you the wrong information, let's say I gave you the wrong information. Let's say I generated a fake ID or something like that. Well, you
Mm-hmm.
follow due diligence. You know what I mean?
Right.
You trusted this information, and because of that, you happen to file incorrect 1099. You can at least have some reasonable cause that I did check. I did some of my due diligence, and in the
Correct.
process, I was in essence given fraudulent information. You can probably use that to lower your penalties or to abate it, because you did follow. But nowadays, that there's ways to verify. You know what I mean? You can get verification of the information. It's an extra step that you have
Mm-hmm.
to do. But again, to prevent you from paying those penalties, you should consider doing, especially if you're going to hiring a lot of contractors.
Right. Right. I know that there is a software that I've used for one of some of my clients, and they do the TIN check. or
Hmm.
the EIN check, or so they will check that, and that's really great because that way it's everything is good. I don't know if QuickBooks Online does that, because I've used QuickBooks Online with some of my clients to issue
Yeah.
the 1099s, and I don't think they do that check. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if
I'm
they
not
do that.
certain that, but
No.
I know that a lot of the software nowadays, they may charge you an extra fee for that. But again,
Yeah,
I'm telling
they
you,
do
if
charge
you
an
have a
extra,
lot
but
of
it's a good thing.
employees, if you have a lot of contractors, listen,
Yes.
paying that extra, let's say $1.50, I don't know, whatever they charge. I think it's like $1.50 to do the
Yeah.
in
Yes.
check. Pay that damn fee. You know what I mean? The 50 cents
Yes.
is way less than, again, paying the penalties I just mentioned because you
Absolutely.
found incorrect information.
Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
again, having one is one thing. You know what I mean? You process one escaped and gave you wrong information. But if they see a pattern of you filing incorrect data,
Right.
it's going to be hard for you to prove, well, they gave me the wrong. Well, it's not one. We have out of 10 contractors, 8 of them are wrong. You know what I mean? So you
Right.
have a problem.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to
Yeah.
be hard. It's going to be hard for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh,
Um, yeah,
the
go
other
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say now the final point I wanted to bring up is this topic of the paying with third party
Yes.
vendors.
Yes.
So if you're paying your contractors with PayPal or credit card, you don't have to issue 1099s.
Right.
You don't have to. Yeah, I know some people are doing it and paying unnecessary fees for processing those
Correct.
1099s. You don't have to. Once you're paying with a third party vendor, uh, it is the responsibility now of PayPal and the credit card companies to
Right.
now issue the recipients a
Hmm.
1099K. It now becomes their responsibility. So
Correct.
liberate yourself from that. If you're paying with your vendors with credit cards or PayPal, you don't no longer you don't have to file those 1099s. Now, the concern or the confusion that is happening is we're using other forms of payment, and that is Zelle and
And
Venmo.
Venmo. Yes. Yes.
And believe it or not, they are not included in this category. They're not a credit card, and they're not really the same kind of what the IRS defines as a third party processing payment company.
Hmm.
They're simply a cash transfer. They look at almost like a debit card.
Right.
So they're not in the same. And they also see if you're paying people with debit card, this is not included. Debit card will be like writing a check.
Right.
So
Right.
you still need to issue a 1099 in that case. But if you're
Yes.
paying with Venmo and those type of other processing, Stripe will be considered
Like
a
PayPal.
third
Yeah. They do
party.
everything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it will be in the same category as PayPal. But Venmo, what was the other?
Zelle.
Zelle, as of at least the end of 2021. Now, there's a change happening, and starting 2022, they will be required Zelle and Venmo
Mm.
to also report. Now, in that case, I don't have the final word, but that is what has been the direction this is going with the new requirements of the $600 or more reporting.
Got it.
The new administration in Washington, I know that they've been talking about that, and I know it's causing some concerns in the community, especially for freelancers, people that have been doing small work, selling in eBay, doing Etsy and things
Yes.
like that are getting paid through those platforms, and now they will be having to what they consider to be a hobby to have now a reporting to the government, and that's again a discussion for another day. But the bottom line is, if you're paying with a credit card, PayPal, something like a Stripe, something that is really a third party
Right.
processing payment option, then you don't have to issue 1099s. At least for 2021, if you paid Zelle through Zelle or Venmo, you are required, or Cash App, some of those other
Yes.
apps that
Yes.
are more transfer of cash, you have to issue 1099s.
Yes, that's very very important to know, and I really appreciate you bringing this challenge that you noticed right away, and then you said, "Hey, let's talk about this." And it's something that's so overlooked. And one of the things I also noticed that, some business owners, they end up using so many different ways, let's say, to pay people, and then they get confused, which ones should I send, which one should I not send. So to make it easy, I would also recommend business owners to pick one or two ways of like paying your vendors, so that you are staying consistent in the way you're paying. So at the end of the year, you're not going to go into, oh, I paid this guy with PayPal and Stripe and from my bank. So now you have to have 1099s going out in different ways, because so you don't want to confuse yourself. Be consistent with the way you're paying your vendors, so it's just easier at the end of the day to issue 1099s, or you have the payment processor issuing 1099s on your behalf. It just simplifies the workload for yourself as well, and makes things a lot more efficient for you. So with that, I think we are already at 31 minutes. Wow, this was an awesome conversation. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Any last thoughts, Pedro, before we end for the day?
I think that the again, I wanted to emphasize that if you go, at least go back, look and see if you have
Yeah,
requirements for file 1099s. If you do, you're still within time to do a potentially with a minimal impact. Go ahead and make the filing. I would advise, if you file, especially if you did it yourself, to go through and review the information file to make sure that the information is correct. Because if it's incorrect, you should still correct it, and you're still within the amount of time to be a minimal impact to you.
sounds good,
And if
Pedro.
you
Thank
if you
you
need
so much.
help, to contact. I mean, if you're confused, you're not certain, seek advice. I mean, I know that Marie will take your case. I would review your situation and see if we can somehow guide, at least as a minimum, give you the proper guidance.
Absolutely. We are always here for you guys. It's just a matter of pick up the phone and call us, or reach out to us via either, our social media channels, or, an email. We are always here for you. With that, I want to leave everyone with the quote of a motivational speaker, Jim Rohn: "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." I hope the two of us are the two of the 5 people that you spend your time with, and you are learning to how to grow your business. And with that, I want to say, have a wonderful rest of your week.
Wonderful. Take care.
Bye.